Politicians and diapers should be changed frequently, and all for the same reason. Good evening and welcome. This is Face the Nation. Our topic of discussion today revolves around the local government election and the transformation of Colombo. So we invited several eminent guests to our studios this evening. We invited the mayoral candidates as well as representatives who are going to be contesting and who will be being listed out as additional list candidates for the local government polls as far as Colombo is concerned. We did invite Milinda Rajapaksa from the Sri Lanka Podujana Peramuna to attend tonight's discussion. However, the reason that was given to us by the mayoral candidate for the Colombo Municipal Council, who will be contesting from the SLPP, was the fact that the party hierarchy has decided that they should not attend the political talk shows. However, we've left a chair for any member of the Sri Lanka Podujana Peramuna to attend tonight's show with a full glass of water. In the event they cannot answer the questions, they're free to have a sip of water. Also joining us this evening shortly is the mayor candidate for the Colombo Municipal Council representing the UPFA, that is Azad Sali. He said he'll be here shortly, so we'll wait for him as well. When he comes, we'll start off the discussions with the UPFA policies. However, joining us this evening, right on time, is Dr. Ranil Jayasena, JP Mayor candidate for Colombo. Nice to have you on the show, Dr. Jayasena, for the first time on Face the Nation. Also joining us this evening is a representative of the United National Party, additional list candidate, Shavin Bandaranaike Khaira. So nice to have you as well, Shavin, on the show. Time and tide, wait for no man. We certainly will not wait for anyone to arrive to the studios. However, we'll start off tonight's discussion with JP Mayor candidate for Colombo, Dr. Ranil Jayasena. Dr. Ranil, they say professionals have to be professionals, politicians have to be politicians. However, you being a politician, a professional, now wants to contest a election. And why?
Yeah, first of all, I must thank TV1 production team for inviting me in this program. Actually, I didn't have any intention of entering political arena, but I was actually forced to come forward to do politics, forced by my patients actually. I am a surgeon treating patients with gastritis, right? And now those parties who have been ruling this country have brought down this country to such a pathetic situation. Doctors find difficult to treat patients sometimes, because I give some examples. Now, to prevent gastritis, we advise patients to have 3 meals, at least 3 meals a day. As you know, it's breakfast, lunch and dinner. Do you know there are a lot of people who can't have 2 meals, sometimes even 1 meal, right? Then our instructions are in vain. And sometimes we advise patients to drink at least 2.5 liters of water a day. But do you believe there are patients coming from some part of this country who actually, divide 1 liter of water among 5-6 members, right? Because these people have not supplied enough water. They are waiting for water bowsers to come and supply water. Pathetic situation. And the main thing is the mental stress, right? There are causes for gastritis now, and alcohol is definitely a strong causative factor. That, of course, they have won a medal for that, getting Sri Lanka as the second in alcohol consumption in the world, second place, right? And mental stress, of course, that is the main cause for me to decide come forward to do politics. So many patients have come with this problem and expressed their grievances.
Dr. Jaisena, you seem to be an individual who is really concerned about the well-being of the patients. However,
Yeah.
I want to drag your attention to the actions of the Government Medical Officers Association that you may be also part of. They're going on strike tomorrow at 8 a.m. Citing various demands, including salary anomalies. Now, you being the JP candidate, what is your stand on issues like that? Isn't this concerning the patients at the end of the day? Isn't this a problem to the patients? What
Yeah.
sort of actions does it demand for us to move forward as a nation? Is it having doctors going on strike?
Yeah, sometimes doctors resort to trade union actions, due to unavoidable circumstances. Actually, most of the time the government is responsible for not providing what their needs, right? Now, I'm not sure for what they are taking trade union action tomorrow. Maybe some problems the patients are faced with, or their grievances.
Their own grievances.
Their own grievances.
I can
yeah.
mention a few if
Maybe
you want to. It's
salary,
about
extra
not
duty.
giving salary,
yeah.
making sure that provisions are not made for their taxation, ensuring that there is more allowances for their phone bills, so on and so forth. Very petty demands.
Yeah.
And why on the verge of an election?
Yeah, I am not. I don't know the real cause for this trade union action.
Very simply, will you go on strike tomorrow, Dr. Jaisena?
No, I am not in the government sector.
Okay.
Therefore, it's not a question for me.
Right. Thank you very much.
yeah.
JP Mayor candidate for the Colombo Municipal Council, Dr. Ranil Jaisena. I now move my attention to United National Party additional list candidate for Colombo Shavin Bandaranaike Karyavasam. We did invite Ms. Rosie Senanayake to attend today's discussion for the benefit of our Colombo viewers. However, Ms. Senanayake said that she will be well represented by Shavin Bandaranaike Karyavasam. So here we have you on the show tonight, Shavin. Tell us, what is the policy of the United National Party? It is not clear, because you had the United National Party governing the council the last time, and what now? What difference are you going to bring to the table now?
So, first off, thank you very much for the opportunity. It's a pleasure to be here. That's a very valid question as well. And we've been going canvassing, and we've been going door to door, and we've been talking to a lot of people. And this is a question that crops up. What's going to change? What's different about it? First of all, this will be actually one of the first instances, almost in 2 decades, where the central government and the municipal council, the Colombo Municipal Council, will have the opportunity of being handled by one particular party, the UNP. If I'm not mistaken, that was almost 2.5 decades ago, in the time of Mr. Premadasa, when both the municipality as well as the central government was with the UNP. The second aspect, the second factor rather, which is different now that I would see as, is we have a person, we have a mayoral candidate, Mrs. Rosie Senanayake, who's actually quite conversant and versed in national politics, coming into the municipal council level. And not only that, she's someone who has experience internationally. She's been a UN Goodwill Ambassador as well as an ambassador to Malaysia from Sri Lanka. So I think there are certain aspects which are quite different. And on top of that, one of the main aspects, at least when a person goes in to vote, that I personally see, when you take a manifesto, for example, this is basically a social contract. I don't like to consider it as promises, rather obligations that any person that's seeking office will give to the voter that they would accomplish. Usually when you look at manifestos, even by the United National Party in the past, you would see a lot of the how, or rather a lot of the what's that will be done. We will do this, A, B, C or D. But very rarely would you see a manifesto come out which actually has the what component, the how it's going to be achieved, and why exactly it's going to be achieved in that way. One of the reasons why, when I was invited by the United National Party, by Mrs. Senanayake, to come into the municipal council, one of the reasons that really convinced me was the fact that the manifesto itself not just outlines what the plan is, but exactly how that's going to be implemented, as well as why we need to implement it in that particular manner.
Shavin, I just want to interrupt you for a second here.
Yeah.
We've seen the manner in which the United National Party has formulated manifestos after manifestos at every local government election or even at parliamentary elections. However, none of this have been concretely exercised or taken into account or fulfilled at the end of the day. In particular, I can drag your attention to the 8th of January, a manifesto that was presented by the UNP as well as the UPFA, out of which most of the promises have not been met. That was a 100-day program. And now you have a manifesto right in front of you, and you're saying that this is a part of the obligations that the UNP has towards the country. I'm beginning to wonder, are you trying to mislead the public again?
Absolutely not. If you actually look at the list as well, the additional list that's been put from the Colombo Municipal Council by the United National Party, you'll see that it's actually quite diverse, and that's reflective of the kind of society that we live in terms of Colombo. We have a very rich and diverse community, a constituency, which is made up of different elements, different religious groups, different ethnicities.
In terms of implementing the manifesto in question, my question to you.
So in terms of the manifesto itself, we have a 5-prong approach, because our entire base, the foundation that we are basing this time's election on, is a smart and efficient Colombo. That is the holistic picture we want to portray. And in order to do this, we actually have 5 stages that we want to implement. One is a clean and green city, which is devoid of dengue, which has a proper manifestation of garbage collection and regularization of that, as well as to implement a mechanism to address the drug issue, the drug epidemic, if I may say so. On top of that, we also want to have infrastructure development techniques which are modernized, things which are on par with international standards. Apart from that, digitization, not just in the sense of convenience for the citizen, but also to make sure that the internal systems are in place where redundancies are no longer available. One particular aspect which I am championing personally is the aspect of participatory citizenship, because representation itself does not equate to the fact that people who are going into that position is competent in every single aspect or every single subject matter. For that purpose, you need to have people coming in for the citizenry, coming in from the township to help those who are their representatives. And I think that conversation, that dialogue is absolutely necessary in order for us to implement whatever the obligations that we have stated in our manifesto.
Shavin, we've not seen a local government election for many months, a few years now, to be very honest. The last election we saw was many years ago. We are long overdue of local government polls. The UNP has been handling the central government along with the United People's Freedom Alliance. However, all the approaches that you mentioned about creating a green city, infrastructure development, eradicating dengue, the drug epidemic and so on and so forth, what have you all done? Absolutely nothing, isn't it?
Well, I wouldn't say absolutely nothing. I would consider maybe considering it lackluster, if I would say so. But this is the very reason why we need a one-party mentality in this particular municipal council election. That is why when we fostered this particular manifesto, and that's why when we communicated it to the public, and every time we go and speak to people as well, we always tell them that the team that's going in are not just simply politicians, like you very correctly said, that has to be changed much like a diaper. We actually consider ourselves as public servants, and that might seem like a far-fetched idea, but if you actually take a very seldom look at the list itself, at the additional list, not just the candidates, but the list itself, you'll see that it's made up of professionals, of lawyers, of academics, and so on and so forth. So I think in terms of that, we should be able to implement.
Thank you very much, Shavin Bandaranaike, a representative of the United National Party, additional list candidate for Colombo. We of course will have to wait and see how things would work out in the future for the political parties as well as their actions in the local government council. Let me open the floor for questions from our journalist. On to immediate left is Attorney at Law Sonali. I just forgot your name, Sonali. I don't know why. And on to my far left is and on to my far left is Nadim Majid. So let's start off tonight's show with Sonali Vanagapaduke.
Thanks, Sham. Shaveen, you have a master's in film, so you belong to the young, vibrant, professional, intellectual bracket that we desire for in politics. Now, I'll get right into the question. Now, Maradana's nightlife is filled with hapless sex workers. There's illegal abortion clinics all over the place. A woman can't walk the streets of Colombo without getting catcalled or groped. So we're looking at a Colombo that's essentially unsafe for women and girls. That's on the one hand. On the other hand, you represent the UNP. Many of its top-level leadership is embroiled in controversy, especially with the Presidential Commission of Inquiry findings and recommendations and the proceedings. So my question to you is, in such a backdrop, how do you propose to resolve this?
Resolve the two issues that you specifically mentioned, or in the sense of the Presidential Commission issue, or the ones in relation to Maradana? Which one are you referring to?
Well,
because
I'm
one is a
talking
national
about,
issue, the other
okay,
one
we're
is
looking at a Colombo that's unsafe for women and girls, with so many issues, as I underlined. How do you, as a representative of the UNP, plan to resolve this, plan to fix this?
Right. So let's take it as two different elements. So in the first case, you were speaking of a national policy issue, which I can touch on briefly. But in relation to it being unsafe for women to walk on the streets at night. So let's take that on a local government level. One aspect of it is our mayoral candidate as well as our manifesto. Besides actually the promise that we've had in terms of the 25% female representation, one of the major aspects that we have fostered here is community development. Now, under that heading, under community development, one major element that we want to foster is to connect the line ministry in charge of law and order in relation to the local government as well. This is why, as I mentioned earlier, Sonali, that it's quite important that you have the UNP in terms of the central government control as well as the local government, because there are certain aspects, like you very rightly mentioned, where the lines seem to blur, because you need that authority of the central government in order to whatever policy that you manifest locally to be implemented. So I think in that regard, there's a lot that we can do hand in hand with law enforcement, the line ministry as well as the local government.
At the present juncture, Shaveen, something that's happening is that all the stakeholders are unaware of what's going on.
Yes.
So there are so many stakeholders, but all of them are never aware about a single issue. So you mentioned a ministry, however there's the Ministry of Women and Children's Affairs.
Correct.
Which is also an essential stakeholder in this venture.
Absolutely. So this is part of actually the digitization process that I mentioned. It's not necessarily the superficial terminology of digitization. I mean, the moment you say something like that, the idea that comes before you is everything's going to be computerized, people are going to use tablets. It's not necessarily that. It's actually looking at the processes that happen within the municipal council level, within the local authority level, and seeing how best it can be implemented with the central government without redundancies taking place. Now, the problem that you mentioned is quite true, because not just in the context of a political figure or a public servant, the citizen at large might not know where he or she has to go to. So part of solving that problem is to actually have processes and streamlining the method in which that communication, that dialogue is fostered.
Right. Thank you, Shaveen. Dr. Jayasena, you're a retired gastrointestinal surgeon. You've had decades of experience at government hospitals as well. You say that you've been driven to politics by the request of disillusioned patients. Now, we are all aware that bribery and corruption are endemic in our society and political culture, so it's also rampant in local government bodies. Don't you feel that you'd be ill-equipped to try to bulldoze this monster which is bribery and corruption? Also, given the fact that thus far the JVP has been unable to prove itself as the third force in politics?
Yeah, I don't agree with that. That JVP has not been able to prove that it is the third force. Actually, it's not a third force or anything. It is an alternative force, right? I must define JVP as like that. It's an alternative force. As you said, there has been a lot of corruption. That is why previous governments ruling this country have not been able to address people's grievances, right? And they have not been working with the humanitarian grounds, right? They have not thought about values of the people, right? The personal development. And if you if you consider the total income of the Colombo Municipal Council with all taxes and all that, it is 15.8 billion, right? They actually, we wonder what they have been doing with that money, right? And we can see that lot of waste, corruption must have been there, because we see when we walk through the Colombo, when we were doing canvassing and all that, we detected lot of unresolved problems throughout.
Doctor, we are aware of the deplorable situation of parts of Colombo.
Yeah.
However, my question to you is how do you propose to resolve this? It's a massive task.
Yeah, correct. It is a massive task, because we have to put full stop to this corruption, right? And JVP, as JVP members, we won't resort to corruption, right? We will utilize these resources and this money to uplift the patients' lives, right? That has been forgotten by the previous ruling people.
Dr. Jayasena, can I ask you spoke of many national issues, including corruption, drinking water, poverty, etc. But as the mayoral candidate for Colombo, what is the JVP's and your plan for the city of Colombo? You said you will be using the money that you save by eradicating corruption to uplift the people's standard of living. But how exactly will you do that? What are the proposals that the JVP is bringing to the table at this election?
Yeah, as a doctor, I will. What I have identified, the main problems that I have to solve in this Colombo municipal area are the dengue fever. That is a big problem and epidemic, and also garbage disposal, right? Garbage disposal, actually, now we talk about recycling and all that, right? Now what has been happening is the corruption has been recycled. Now what they let this
so we know we are aware of the history of, for example, the garbage problem as well, how corruption contributed even to the Mitotamulla disaster, to garbage piling up there, the involvement of members of local government in these corruption scandals involving disposal of waste. This has all been well and truly discussed. What we want to know is, how will the JVP be different? What will you do that is different? Are you going to introduce timetables? For example, I'll tell you a problem that I'm facing. They don't pick up the garbage unless you come out and give the garbage to them. If you leave it outside, you can't leave it outside on the street because that's illegal. However, I'm a working person. I have to be at office in the morning. By the time the garbage truck comes to pick it up, I'm not at home, so I'm not there to go and give it out. So therefore, garbage starts to collect. How will the JVP resolve that problem for you?
And there are a lot of practical problems, right? Because as far as I know, there are so many vehicles belong to this Colombo Municipal Council, and what we saw Actually, most of these, the lorries, gully emptiers or tractors which are used to collect this garbage have been in garages for simple minor things, right? And if you put those things to road, you can actually get rid of this garbage, and they are letting this happen and forcing people to resort to corruption. You know, when the garbage
So
is piled-
basically what you're saying is that the system is broken,
Yeah.
and if you manage to get these tractors, these gully emptiers, etc.
Actually,
on the
those
road,
they are
then
very
it will run
simple,
smoothly.
simple things, right? We have to note. I don't have to discuss the how do you what do you do with that garbage. You know, whether you recycle it or you use it for compost, manure, manufacture, those things. But there are a lot of practical problems they have not been looking into.
But the problem is, how is this issue going to be addressed, Dr. Jayasen? Okay,
Yeah.
you know there is a problem. Okay, we understand that. The last 1.5 years have been quite a strain on the citizens of Colombo. How are you going to address this problem?
Yeah, that's right. Now, we will identify the main causes of this problem first, right? And we have to solve one by one. First, we have to allocate money to get these, vehicles and all that other infrastructure facilities to be improved, right? And then we have to actually discuss these matters with the central government also. Sometimes we might need their help for recycling and transporting this garbage to other areas, because Colombo municipal area we can have some incinerate, for incineration we can have some plants and all that. We can actually renovate these things which are not functioning at the moment. And those are some practical problems we have to address.
We have the UPFA mayoral candidate for Colombo, Azad Salih, also leader of the National Unity Alliance. The garbage issue. Nice to have you, at least before 10 p.m., Mrs. Salih, to be very honest. Was looking forward to seeing you at 9:30. However, as a mayoral candidate, probably you had a demanding schedule. But as I started the show, I said time and tide wait for no man, so we began the show. But tell us about this garbage issue that we have at hand.
First and foremost,
how can it be solved?
First and foremost, let me apologize for being late because I am coming after another TV show.
Yes, okay. So
So,
tell us,
and I
how
thought-
do you intend to address the garbage issue?
Garbage issue, we have 750 metric tons of garbage a day. And what happened was earlier in the CMC, this garbage was dumped in our own fields. Later that same fields became private lands and the CMC started paying those people. And now this has become the biggest business in Sri Lanka. Every local authority has to pay money to dump garbage. So that's the latest business that is there. But we don't need to go by that. Now since Colombo has already designed it in such a way that 4 bins are given and people separate their garbage. And if not, it is not accepted. That is a trend today. But as Nadeem said, that the time of collecting the garbage, some people are out in office and the way this garbage. So there should be a system where you will be accommodating those type of people also. And especially if this garbage collection can be done during the night, most of the problems can be solved. You see, CMC has a habit of doing everything during the day, even carpeting the road repairs, everything is done, and we create more traffic for people. So I think these type of things must be well looked into, and if we can start collection of garbage also during the night, I think most of the problems can be solved out. And also now, if you come from the airport, you see the Mawat Kunukanda, right? Then again when you come to Mitorimula, you see another Kunukanda. These things, you don't need to be collecting all these things. What was happening is, whenever the CMC got proposals for disposing of garbage, it was always sent to the central government and the minister would ask how much I am getting. So on that basis and on that negotiation, every time this has been postponing. Now the megapolis has taken over from one side, the environmental ministry has taken over from the other side, and the chief minister has taken over one side. Now what they are planning is to take all this garbage to Putlam. How are they going to take it? Going to take it by train. So a new system, a new railway line, everything has to be created to take garbage into Putlam.
So what is the
This is not the solution.
What is the
With
solution?
all this advancement around the world, we are seeing people doing it in the city itself. We can have our own disposal site in the city, and there are mechanisms that can totally finish your garbage day by day.
What is the mechanism?
The mechanism is that you burn the garbage and you turn it into power, and also the balance into fertilizer. These are the methods that are there. You don't need to be even separating it. Wet or dry garbage, both are acceptable today.
You were once the deputy mayor of Colombo. Azad. I recollect you had Prasanna as your mayor. Somewhat, you also have to be held accountable and responsible
This
for
is
this
what
garbage.
at the beginning-
It takes time. You can't. Let's say you are appointed as a mayor tomorrow. You can't do this overnight.
See,
So you're also somewhat responsible. What difference are you going to bring to the
Samir,
table this time?
when we were in the council, it was a different government. This is the problem. So they will not allow this council to do any work. This is why we are telling now, we have the executive presidency with us, we have the local government minister with us, we have the entire provincial council with us. That is why we say give it to us. There is no point giving it to the UNP, because last 50 years it has been with the UNP, and whenever they were running the council, it was the different government.
Now, Shavin, I
Right?
want to grab my attention to you. You said the UNP is in the central government, so people have to vote your party in order to have the system streamlined. However, Mr. Sali says they have the executive president, and the UPFA has to be elected to the council. Now, doesn't
Samir, why I
fit the
say
bill.
that, Samir, is...
No, let me
Yeah,
listen
okay.
Yeah,
to
so
Shavin and come back to you.
fortunately or unfortunately, Shami, that's a byproduct from January 8th. There was a requirement for that, and that is what has cascaded now. Just to add to something, so we are talking about one issue specifically, right? Garbage, but the rationale there is, and there's valid points in what Mr. Sali mentioned, but that alone is insufficient, because that's what I mentioned in the beginning as well. When you look at garbage, that's one clean and green city
No, sorry,
aspect.
we understand, but my question is very simple to you. Now, you're saying the UNP has to be elected to the council, the mayor should be from Colombo, because you have the central government.
Yeah.
However, Mr. Sali says, no, the UPFA has to be elected to the council because they have the executive presidency. Now, I'm trying to figure out whether it's going to be the JVP that's going to sit in, or the UNP, or the UPFA to the council. And because you said earlier that...
Yeah, so in essence, what you need to look at,
so who should be elected?
the UNP,
Why?
primarily because if you consider where we are at currently, and it's quite true, for the past 50 plus years, it's been the UNP that has been having majority power in terms of the local government, especially in terms of the Colombo Municipal Council. But as Mr. Sali mentioned, yes, the executive presidency might be from the UPFA, but then right now, as of now, when you take the central government, the Prime Minister, and most of the line ministries that we are trying to utilize to solve the problems in the city, that is with the UNP.
Ms. Sali?
3 years of UNP's governance we have seen. We don't want the Colombo municipality also to have another bond scam. So enough is enough. So
Well, I have a
think
question for both
Yeah.
Mr. Sali and for Shavinder as well, and perhaps Dr. Jasin also would like to chime in on this. Is this the crux of your campaign? You have the UNP representative saying, elect us because the central government is in our hands. And you're saying, elect us because the executive president is in our hands.
not only
is that the crux of the
nothing,
campaign?
not only that. Out of the 4 who are campaigning as the mayoralty, I can claim I can do better with my experience. Being a councillor, being a deputy mayor, and now the mayor. Right? I will do the change because being the deputy mayor, I have done it, I have proved myself, I have several paper editorials for the work that I have done.
So
with
let me
that-
ask you this question.
Yeah.
I asked you this the last time you were on the show as well. There is going to be a series of elections in the run-up to the 2020 presidential election. Will you serve a full term as mayor if you are elected, or will you resign and then contest the provincial
See,
council and then resign and contest
wha-
the parliamentary election?
Why I had to resign is the question. Being elected in Kandy as the number 1 with 57,500 votes,
You were
because
deprived
the
of the
United
position
National
of
Party
opposition leader.
betrayed me with my national list. So there is no purpose my sitting in the central province and serving the UNP, so might as well resign. So resigning my position, I still serve my people and continue to do so. So Azad Sali is one person who will always be not running behind position, position will be running behind me.
If you are elected to the Colombo Municipal Council, will you serve a full term?
Yeah, of course, we have to get the 51%. Number one is 51% to be the mayor of Colombo.
If you
So
don't
I
get
ask
the
people to
51%,
vote
will you
us.
still serve a full term?
Yes, we have to not only serve the full term, we will do a very clean and a vibrant council. This is what we are trying to do.
Shavin, I want to ask you
Another
this
thing-
question. You mentioned the drug epidemic, which is as your words, epidemic, and you're right, it is of epidemic proportions. Now there are allegations that much of this drug menace, especially in the immediate surroundings of Colombo, in Maligawat, Matakpulia, etc., that this is allowed to continue because of political patronage. There are allegations against seniors in your party. So how are you going to address the drug epidemic when there are allegations of involvement in drug rackets against seniors in your party?
I'm
in
glad
fact,
that
seniors
you-
in more parties.
Yeah, I'm actually glad that you asked that question. So, from a local government perspective, when we are coming into this position, one thing that I must touch on is that you can't do much of the changes that we are proposing, much of the changes that anyone is proposing for that matter, without the assistance of the central government. And when you actually specify that there are people in the party that have accusations of that caliber, we have to weed those people out. You mentioned earlier about, if I may touch on what Sonali mentioned initially in relation to the Presidential Commission and the bond issue. I won't go into detail there, but if you are able to split that issue rather than taking it as the issue itself, look at the issue, look at the people that have been accused and involved, and look at the mechanism that has been put in place to make sure that there's some sort of justice that is meted out. You separate A and B and just keep the mechanism in place.
There is no mechanism. What's
There is a mechanism. Because think about it. For the first time, it's unprecedented. Besides the commission being implemented, you had the Prime Minister and several of the key ministers of the party
where
coming
is
in.
the mechanism that will ensure justice and accountability? You're talking about debates in Parliament, even the Presidential Commission of Inquiry, in spite of being a quasi-judicial mechanism, did not have the authority to prescribe sentences.
No, there is a-
Where
there
is
is-
the judicial
there is a
mechanism that
mechanism
will
in
ensure
place.
justice and accountability?
In context, let me ask you a very simple question. At this moment of time, if we supplant ourselves to a period which is not the post-January 8th government, do you think any of that would have actually taken place in the first place?
But
the
again, these are all political mechanisms.
The line ministers, the Prime Minister going in to actually provide evidence, you can't say it's
Shavin,
an evidence quasi-judicial.
the
Let's be
basis
very
of
simple.
good governance is
Nadim,
removing
Nadim,
political
Nadim,
interference.
Nadim,
So
Nadim,
how
Nadim.
can you move this forward with just political mechanisms?
So, sorry,
Where
very
is the
simple, very
judicial
simple.
mechanism?
Very simple question to you. You say that the people who are accused should be weed out. You can't have these people. So who are the people that you're talking about?
I'm saying that there is going to be a mechanism to weed those people out.
who
You
are
cannot
those
ask
people?
me on who those people
Yeah.
are. You'll have to ask him because he's the very person who
No,
suggested that.
see, you're saying that. So you're saying.
If there are such people
Okay.
in such positions, they must be weeded out.
So I want to drag my attention to Dr. Ranil Jayasen before we go in for a short commercial break. Dr. Jayasen, you've seen the SLFP mayor candidate speaking. You just heard Shavin Bandaranaike, who is a representative of the United National Party, also speaking. My question to you is very simple. What sort of difference or change of thinking are you going to bring into the council?
Yeah, actually, without political involvement, the drug menace would not have come to this extent, right? Now, it can be solved by two ways. One thing is to stop supply and minimize demand, right? Now, by educating people and rehabilitating people who are already addicted to drugs, we will minimize demand or stop demand, right? At the same time, you have to block the site of supplies, right? Now, actually, this much of drug menace we could not have experience without the political involvement. Definitely politicians are involved. That is how Mahathir Mohamad in Malaysia solved this problem. Right?
So how is JP going to solve this problem?
Yeah, we are going to actually stop supply by looking to these points where it enters, right?
It's not about
airport,
it's not about just closing the doors and saying okay, no drugs.
No, you can't close.
That's not the way to go about
you will
it.
see
the
the ways which how the drug trafficking takes place, and also the educating people through the organizations and the professionals, teachers, getting all these involved in some sort of system. We educate people, rehabilitate people who are already affected, and then minimize the demand for that. Then there won't be a supply.
Yeah, Dr. Jason, do you think
that's the mechanism we
Dr. Jason, do you think that the involvement of the central government is needed to run the local government polls?
Definitely.
So how is the JP going to do it? Because you all are not there or not either here.
No. If I am the mayor, according to these laws and regulations and bylaws, the mayor has power. The mayor, he is vested with power to influence the central government to solve this problem, to help the mayor. Actually, that has to be solved through reconciliation.
Thank you very much, gentlemen, for your thoughts in the first and second round. We're going for a short commercial break. When we come back, we're talking about the local government election and the transformation of your city, Colombo. Stay connected. Stay with Face the Nation. Welcome back. This is Face the Nation. I want to start off the third round with Shavin Bandaranaike-Karyavasam, representative of the United National Party. He is the additional list candidate for the Colombo Municipal Council. Shavin, now good things have happened according to people's notions. Is the fact that during the previous regime for Colombo, you saw a beautified city, you saw things happening. We didn't have the garbage issue as we see right now. People say the previous government did well, and there is no mention about a UNP run council at that time, because the Urban Development Authority was handling operations at that time. However, since your government took over, the central government, as you clearly indicated, things have not worked out well, and people start wondering now, a government who couldn't handle a council all by themselves for 1.5 years, how are they going to do it for the next 5 years? The time starts now.
Right. So, in terms of, you're very right, in terms of the beautification, a lot of people keep talking about the previous regime and what they manifested in Colombo.
There was a lot of corruption, that's besides the point, but yes.
Yeah, just the beautification part alone. I think in terms of what they actually did in the city, from building various facades to reinvigorating certain buildings, I think the only thing you need to see is the moment there's a storm, the moment there's heavy rain, what actually happens. For example, the recent storms that occurred in Colombo alone, you'll see the number of billboards, the number of trees, everything in terms of that beautification process that fell through. I'm not saying that that's not necessary in terms of beautification, but what I felt is, and what our party feels is, that there is much in terms of infrastructure development that was lacking, that was lackluster at that time. And most of the elements that were portrayed and that were put up were superficial in nature. And to answer your question in terms of, we've had the central government and no one has been talking about much at all, quite frankly, there's a lot of change that we have done in a very slow process, and I must grant you that, because most of the UMP's policies are not sudden. For example, even in our manifesto, we are talking about a 10-year long-term plan
so we have
for
to
the
wait
city.
for 10 years to see Colombo
I wouldn't
being
say
put
10
on track.
years,
Yeah.
but As you rightly said, in terms of Dr. Ranil as well answering a question about garbage, it doesn't necessarily happen overnight, and it's not supposed to. And the previous government, what happened was you got accustomed to it, as in the citizens got accustomed to it, because immediately the facade is what's created and you see the beauty, but you don't see, much like the government itself at that time, the cracks and the faults underneath.
No, I'll get back to you. I'll get back to you. Shamin, very quickly, your mayoral candidate, Rose Lanka, unfortunately lost the Colombo parliament election that was held in 2015. A losing candidate coming in as the mayoral candidate for Colombo, what change is it going to instill? Do you think people would go to the polling
I wouldn't
booth
connotate it as a losing candidate, rather a gain for the municipality. Because as I noted earlier as well, this is the first time that we have a national level politician, someone who actually has experience not just in parliament but abroad as well, coming in as the mayoral candidate. And I think there is rightly excitement in terms of at least the youth that are coming on board with her team, that there is going to be opportunities and there's going to be a lot of experience that's coming along with her as well.
Thank you very much, Shavin Bandaranaikaryasam, representative of the United National Party. He's representing the additional list for the Colombo Municipal Council. I now move my attention to Dr. Ranil Jayasena, JVP mayoral candidate for Colombo. Dr. Jayasena, let's look at the parliamentary elections that has taken place over the last 10 years and the benefit for the JVP as a party. In 2004, we saw over 15 members of the Janata Vimukti Peramuna getting into parliament. We saw in 2010 this number reduced to 7. In 2015, the number reduced to 6. And you are here today trying to contest the Colombo Municipal Council polls. It's very evident when you look at the numbers that the voter base of the Janata Vimukti Peramuna has deteriorated significantly over the years. Do you think that your party will have a chance, at least this time around?
Yeah. Number of members in the parliament actually that doesn't matter, right? That is their views and also their fight against corruption. Right now there are 198 heads in the parliament against 6 heads of JVP. But the country is in this situation, at least in this situation, because of JVP members, right, fighting for people, for the sake of people's problems, right? And they have been addressing to various problems, at national level. I am now you are talking about the national level, no?
Yeah.
Parliamentary elections and regarding this fishermen problem and farmers, the problem they face during the recent past, and JVP came forward to fight for them.
But one of the issues is, Dr. Jayasena, let's talk about the Willpath to National Park issue. And your party has been quite silent about it. It's a very national level matter. Your party is very selective of the subjects they choose, and we saw holding a media briefing, one of the trade union activists very close to your party was canvassing and holding a candle to the subject minister concerned. And now you try wondering, how genuine is the Janata Vimukti Peramuna anymore?
We see lot of corruption and waste, and that's why these people face so much problem today, right? And JVP, actually our duty is to fight against this corruption. Patients, people are suffering, right? If you consider the situation in Colombo municipal area, right? They are actually living in hell, right? They have very limited space to live with no ventilation.
Dr. Jayasena, you make a very valid point. You say the people in Colombo are suffering. Understood. But when I ask you a question about what sort of actions are you taking to minimize this, it's not just, it doesn't happen overnight. Let's take, you want to build dwellings for individuals who are on the road. That means that you need to get allocations of money to put up buildings for these people. So where is that money going to come from when a government is already bankrupt?
CMC collects about 15.8 billion rupees. I think not only from taxes, not only from taxes, there are other some other sources. 15.8 billion, that is 15.
That's the total budget.
Total, yeah, annual total budget is 15.8 billion. But how much money has been spent for the upliftment of people is a question.
Thank you very
when
much.
you go through this Colombo, so much unsolved problems, right? About their preschool education and libraries, right? Only 16 libraries in the whole area. Stadiums, one stadium, only one stadium, one gymnasium, one swimming pool. And we are talking about technology. Do you believe we have only 24 computer centers in this whole Colombo area?
Thank you very much, Dr. Jayasena. I now move my attention to UPFA mayor candidate for Colombo, Azad Saleh, leader of the National Unity Alliance as well. Ms. Saleh, I want to drag your attention to the recent statement made by the President himself, stating that if all 96 members of the Sri Lanka Freedom Party and the UPFA unite, he is ready to form a government. Where does it leave the United National Party now in this equation?
That is an indication that the SLP can stand together. But if that is the case, more than half the UNP will join the President. By now, a lot of people have already spoken to join.
The President said today, this is a follow-up to his previous statement, he said, I know that they will not come stand with me because I know that they cannot accept my policies and embark on the clean political journey that I want to continue on. That's just the update to what the President was saying. So the President is not willing to take back, in his words, the corrupt and the wasteful.
Exactly.
So where does it leave the Sri Lanka Freedom? I'll give you more time to definitely answer your question. The question: where does it leave the Sri Lanka Freedom Party now and the United People's Freedom Alliance?
Actually speaking, Samir, why the President had to say this is when this commission, bond commission started, you would have seen, as I told you earlier also, I was in London with the President at the Commonwealth Conference. When this arose, and the President informed his secretary to inform the public of Sri Lanka that he is appointing a commission. But before that, a 3-member friendly committee was appointed by the UNP, a friendly committee. And what happened? Nothing. Then President had to intervene and appoint the Presidential Commission. In 10 months, it came up with the report, and the UNP, the backbenchers especially, started attacking the President on it. Right? And not the seniors, but the backbenchers were trying to attack the President on it. Now the report has come out, 31 names have also arisen. But in that commission also, I have always been speaking very loudly about it, that how did they corner only one politician in that entire commission. When Malik Samaravikrama went, there was no cross-examination. When Kabir Hashim went, there was no cross-examination. When Ranil Wickremesinghe himself volunteered to go there, they said, no, commission is closing, we have no time for you, we will give you 28 questions, please answer that. So that was answered. But again they get an extension to write the report. At that time they invite the Prime Minister, okay, you come, giving the UNP an opportunity. to come and close the case. So they give the opportunity. He goes there. Attorney General appears for him, and no cross-examination, right? And the most beautiful of this entire commission is the commission itself reports saying that the Prime Minister only told the central bank governor to see whether this system can be adopted. But you and I, everybody in this country, saw a very clear statement by the Prime Minister in Parliament that it is my system, I wanted it adopted, and I take full responsibility for it. Then, why didn't that surface in the report? Whether that was a mistake or not.
Thank you very much.
What I see is, even in the commission, that it was not investigated properly.
What actions would you take to apprehend those who are corrupt if you are appointed as mayor? Because we know a lot of corrupt activities took place during the tenure of the previous regime, which was in power and handling the urban development authority under the municipal council. So what sort of actions would you take?
See, we have been always talking very vociferously against corruption and killing of people, innocent people, sending of white vans, attacking TV stations, killing journalists, all that. See, UNP was a champion and taking the body of Lasanta all over only to win over votes. 3 years since the government came, the police is under the UNP, the Attorney General is under the UNP. What did they do? What happened to Tajuddin's murder? See, Dr. Anand Samarasekara, right, the person who had misplaced all the spare parts of Tajuddin, he goes to all the courts in the country asking for an anticipatory bail. He has been refused. But in the same court where the case is, he just walks in there, gets an anticipatory bail. Same thing with Gamini Senrat. So who is responsible? The UNP said it was our minister who was responsible. We have removed him. Now just by removing Vijayadasa Rajapaksa, did the problem solve? By Talata coming in, did it solve? No, they said they are coming up with 3 new courts. Where is the new 3 courts? And when are they going to find all these people who have done mistakes? Another 2 more years to go.
Thank you very much,
So there is hardly any time for these people to do anything.
Leader of the National Unity Alliance as well as the United People's Freedom Alliance mayor candidate for Colombo. I open the floor for questions. Let's start off with Sonali.
Thank you, Shamir. Dr. Jayasena, Colombo is filled with unsettled youth that roam the streets of Colombo, lost and wandering. So most of them end up becoming either 3-wheeler drivers or something like that. There's no vocational training or scope for vocational training, no sense of direction. They are caught up in social vices, so end up being either drunkards or drug addicts. Subsequently, they become abusers, so their wives have to invariably end up going to the Middle East, they get raped and then come back. So the entire family structure is completely broken, children are psychologically traumatized. So you have a completely broken system that we're talking about. Now you're saying you can fix this. Tell us how.
Actually, this is mainly a problem at national level. There's no national policy for these governments at any field. Education, there was no national policy. Health, no national policy. As you said, for vocational training, they didn't have a proper mechanism, right, to fight this. Then they become drug addicts. Their main job is now to drive a 3-wheeler, right? Their dream is to be a 3-wheeler driver. That is a real problem.
So how do we fix this?
Yeah. We actually have to start that from the preschool level, right? We have to develop the personality of from the childhood, and actually our students or our youth, there's a big problem in their personality that has not been looked into from the preschool level. That we have a program that we will have preschools, and adjacent to that we will have daycare centers where focused on the personal development and their naturals to develop their natural skills, right? And handcraft various things at, when they are kept in.
Yeah, but what about their
welfare
parents?
centers.
What about their parents?
Yeah.
They
Parents-
already exist. They already exist in the structure.
Yeah, actually we have to educate parents also.
So that's
We
not
have to
being
get
done at
them
the
to-
present juncture. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, it is not done properly.
Dr.
Jackson,
Jackson,
you
Dr.
mentioned-
Jackson, very quickly. Dr. Jackson, are you trying to say that for 14 years of a individual's life, the government has to be developing their personality? How
Yeah.
practical is this?
It's practical.
The government is only going to be in power for 5 years.
Yeah, they have not been doing it properly. Therefore, we have
So there
a
are
system.
existing structures. There is a preschool,
Yeah, actually,
young learners
yeah.
education system.
Correct.
There's schools.
The thing is, actually, the stream is just.
So
same.
what do you propose
We
to include
we have to
or bring
update.
in?
Yeah. We have to update their knowledge. There should be a system where their knowledge is updated, their skills are updated, and technology to be introduced. New technology.
Azhar, what is
And
your,
Doc-
what is your take on
we
this?
don't, we don't need to be going to the central government and we always keep saying that central government has to come and do these things. First and foremost, if we can focus our ideas to the points where the schools are, especially all the schools that are there, you have to clean up the whole area because you see drugs coming in to the canteens of the schools also. Right? Today, most of the international school children, they are having drugs in their pockets. And you see, there is a drug that has come up now, which is 19,000 rupees. There are children still buying that drug. And once they take that, and there's another thing that has come called the strawberry. Right? These are all sold in front of the school. So first thing is you have to first totally eradicate and
Mr.
clean
Saleh,
up.
Mr. Saleh, one question I want to ask you is, where did you get that stat from that most international
These are-
schools
these are things like
children are?
international-
That's one. The other one is,
Yeah,
how are you going to clean it up?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Clean up the entire vicinity first, wherever schools are. That entire area must be. CMC, we have the inspectors. We can send them. We can see what and what they are selling in front of the school. First clean up that, then there is no avenue there. Children can't be taking those things. Number one, that is the most important thing. We can do it. Colombo Municipal Council can do it. We will anyway raid all these shops and ensure that no drugs are available. Today, we have another problem. The biggest problem is these children who are addicted. Parents don't want to give them to us to rehabilitate.
So that's because
Because
the
they feel-
rehabilitation centers are
Yes,
in
that's what I'm
deplorable
saying.
state.
There are rehabilitation. Parents feel once they send the child to rehabilitation center, the family name goes. But they don't understand that this child will be affected totally.
Shavin, how do you propose
Yeah.
to resolve this?
So, two aspects. Just to rebut one aspect, because we've been actually traveling and we've been going and meeting most of these people, and the fact that the parents don't want to send them to rehabilitation centers, that's not necessarily the mindset. Them being in a deplorable state, I grant you that. But the parents not wanting to send their children, that is not something that I would agree with. Primarily, one major aspect that we are trying to foster is participatory citizenship. The reason why that's important is because at the moment, even at the municipal council level, most corporates and professionals don't necessarily want to get involved because of the red tape and the bureaucracy that's there. What we are intending to do with this participatory citizenship program is to actually entice more professionals as well as corporates who have the infrastructure, the knowledge and the capability of actually helping us establish these centers to educate the youth, for rehabilitation centers to be provided.
Well, just really quickly, if you're going to invite the private sector to run drug rehabilitation centers,
Not necessarily
that-
run, but
or-
to assist the
or
CMC
assist,
to...
there's going to have to be an incentive. Are these going to be for-profit rehabilitation centers?
Not necessarily.
Not-
Nadeem. There are a lot of volunteers in the private sector who want to come and help the council. That has been now in 2002 to 2006, where Prasanna and I was there. How many breakfast meetings we have been having to forward
But
for
this-
development of Colombo?
again,
They are coming
again,
and
these are
advising. All that free of charge.
For example,
But the thing is this: the problem with that proposal is it's castles in the clouds, because there are people who want to come and help us. There are people who want to come and help us. They are just not coming forward now because of the red tape. It sounds like a very there's no solid base to that proposal.
Red tape, UNP can say it because they have been in power and they are the red tape.
I'll actually give you one
When
example.
they are the red tape.
I'll give you one
now
example.
See, you saw Muzamil being the mayor. What did he say? That 5 years, what did he say? Gota is good. So if Gota is good, why you want a mayor?
If
You
I
don't need a mayor.
if I may,
But at the same election that Mr. Muzammil became mayor, you were on the
if I
other
may.
side saying that.
Nothing. Let me give a Shavin a chance.
if I may, for example, the CMC, right? The CMC has, by and large, even up to this point, it has its systems and methods still based from the time of the British rule. There's not much that has changed in terms of how it operates internally. For example, there are quite competent local entities that have attempted to go in, who are invited to come in to make changes. For example, in certain divisions, let's say for instance planning, there are a lot of delays that happen. There are a lot of things that take place which are redundant. Sometimes even the staff, they are not aware why it's done. It's just done because it has been happening for quite some time. Now there, in that particular example alone, I won't mention the company, or for the sake of argument, let's presume that that particular venture actually started and stopped halfway because the person that actually initiated it, got these people down, had a proper vetting process, retired. And the moment that happened, that's when the red tape comes in. It's not necessarily the party politics that play there. It's primarily because the staff and the people who are working within have these redundant systems in place that they don't move
Shavin,
forward from that
You sound
instance.
exactly like a politician. I'll tell you why. I'll tell you why. Because you say that the state of rehabilitation centers are in a deplorable state. Understood. And then you have this great idea about getting private sector partnerships to run these business establishments.
Not necessarily run, as I corrected
Right,
Najima
okay.
there as well.
To at least get them involved
Yes.
in the process, at least through funding or other means. Let's say this is a great idea. Why didn't the UNP do this during the last 5 years?
I think there are many reasons for that
Why?
as well. First and foremost, this is the first instance that we are actually having a holistic plan in place, and I must say that because in
So you are trying
2000
to say that the UNP, which is one of the oldest political parties in Sri Lanka, does not have a holistic approach to run a country?
I'm not talking about national policy, and I don't think I am at the stage where I can talk about that
You
either.
contested the parliamentary election a few years ago, so I
yes.
presume that...
Independently.
Yeah, so you did contest. So
So
I
the
presume
reason
that
why-
you should know about national politics as well when you
But
come and sit on a show. Yes.
at this context, I believe this conversation is about the local government elections.
Absolutely.
And the people who are watching this program, if I'm not mistaken, were also vested with the interest of finding out A, who should we vote for, and B, why should we vote for them. So at this
Why?
moment,
Why the UNP?
they're staring at their television at a person who is coming in for the local government elections. And when you ask me a question about national politics, I believe it's out of context.
No, it is not out of context, because you say that the UNP did not have a holistic approach before. So my question
For the
is very
local
simple to you.
government election, this is the
Yeah,
first
yeah.
instance.
So you
This
mean
is
to
the
say
first
UNP,
instance.
which has
This
been
is the
more
first
They would have
instance.
done lot.
This is the first
Colombo is
instance.
Colombo. Lee Kuan Yew came to Colombo
This is
and he
the
wanted
first
to make
instance.
Singapore like Colombo.
This is the first instance in which you have a female mayoral candidate. It's the first
That is going to be
instance in
worse.
which you have an additional list which is supplemented by a lot of professionals, people who actually have a professional as well as vocational interest to come in to help the CMC and the city that they were born and raised in.
I'm not going to ask you to answer for party seniors or for the senior leadership of the party, because there's a saying that says you must not visit the sins of the father on the son. Instead, I'm going to ask you this: in everything that you've said so far about, a lot of it involves getting assistance. We're going to get the assistance of the central government because we have our parties in control of the central government. Then you spoke about getting assistance from the private sector. There are people who want to help us. There are professionals, etc. But what is the team that is going to be in the municipal council going to do? Are they going to, is it basically going to be going around to the private sector, to the central government with the begging bowl saying,
not
please help
necessarily.
us?
So the idea that I was trying to foster, the one that I mentioned earlier, was that representation does not necessarily mean that you are absolute experts in every single subject area. And that's the difference between reactive and proactive government. Up until this point, what usually happens is you have your representatives, they go in and they manifest policies and whatnot, be it any party. Here, what we are suggesting, and that's specifically what I'm championing with participatory citizenship, is that you have representatives who are demographically, geographically representative of you, and they are professionals and they have experience in certain areas, but not everything. Humanly, you
So do you
cannot
think
be
that this was not
expected to
done
be
before?
competent in every single
So do you
area.
think this was not done before
It
by
was,
the UNP?
I'm not saying that it wasn't done. I'm saying that right now, for this particular municipal council election, one that has been happened, as you quite rightly said, after quite some time, we have an opportunity where there is a
Shavin,
central government
I admire your
and the-
hope and aspiration. I hope that you don't become disillusioned within the first couple of years of if you are elected to the Colombo Municipal Council.
If I may finish, the difference here, and that's what I mentioned earlier, was that the central government and the municipality, if it both
So
comes
very
under
quickly,
the one,
yeah, understood. So let's quickly rebut this point and finish it off. So you're saying that the UNP never had a holistic approach for governance
No.
before, right? Azad, you were a member of the United National Party. You were the deputy mayor of the Colombo Municipal Council. You never had a holistic approach to run.
No,
business?
we of course had it. We had a program.
So, but he's
also.
saying that the UNP
Yeah.
never had it.
That is his opinion. But we had, and that's what I'm saying. Whatever we did also was stopped. Now even if you say from 2002 to 2006, we had a one-stop shop. Like he said, there's delays in bringing the plans and all that into one place, and within no time to finish all that. So all these things were stopped when the next mayor was elected. That is a real truth. And they stopped and they go into new ways of doing things, and today it has become worse. Now Colombo Municipal Council is a place from the time a person is born to death, you can deal with it, right? That's another government with a massive budget. You can do wonders. Now see Colombo, if you take Colombo for instance, the tenement gardens are as it is. The shanty dwellers are as it is. The payment talkers as it is. Like what you said, the three-wheelers. No discipline at all. You have to streamline all this, which you can do. Now see, earlier, every police station registered the three-wheeler and said these are the areas that these three-wheelers will be defined. They will be there. But today, you know, there is over 400,000 three-wheelers in the country. So you have to plan the city, and these are the three-wheelers that will run in the city. These are three-wheelers that will be outside the city. The payment talkers have to be settled. The tenement gardens, Colombo, you know the price of the properties. You can develop this. You don't need the central government to come and do it.
Dr.
Dr. Jayasena, I have a quick question for you.
Yeah, actually,
You keep, because throughout this program, you highlighted the issues of corruption and waste and etc. that have gripped this country, that have prevented it from moving anywhere. Yet, we always see this with the Janata Vimukti Peramuna. Where are the the ideas? Even in Parliament, as you correctly mentioned, the 6 members of the JVP do a stand-up job of being in the opposition, of raising issues, asking the right questions, demanding answers. But always from the JVP, even with the 2015 general election manifesto, our vision, it was very broad and vague. Where are the ideas? Is the collectivist ideology of the JVP an obstacle to having innovative ideas and innovative thinking?
Yeah, basically both these parties have been in power. JVP has not been in power at any time.
Why not?
Yeah. No.
Why not? JVP was in power with Chandrika, with 33 members in Parliament.
No, I mean as a single party, and has the full power. Therefore,
only
now,
ministerial positions
actually the problem is they have lost confidence, right, of people towards those parties, and now actually that is the question of the getting people's attraction now, right? because these have been all corrupt parties, and people won't rely on them.
But this is
And
the issue, Dr.
now-
Jason. You're saying they're
Yeah.
both corrupt.
Yeah.
Let's say
But they get
let's
elected, they are
just say
thrown
that
out.
the people agree with you. But you're asking us to trust the JVP, but you're not giving us a lot to go on. There's no.
No, no,
So we want to know what the ideas of the JVP are. What are the innovative measures that the JVP is going to bring in to tackle these issues? What are those? How? Is it simply you're going to get rid of corruption and waste and everything else will sort itself out?
Yeah, if you get rid of corruption, you can do a lot of things, right? This is like a cracked bell. These two parties, they are functioning as those are cracked bells. No sound. But now JVP, if we get power, that we have introduced a lot of in our manifesto to solve these problems from preschool level to how to solve this, basic garbage disposal.
Dr. Jayasena, what's your take on abortion in limited circumstances?
That is little controversial. we
Yes,
think.
there's a vigorous debate
Yeah.
regarding it. You're also aware that there are spas which offer much more than massages strewn across Colombo. There's prostitution which is rampant.
Exactly.
There are tuition classes, and then alongside tuition classes you get little motels which these students, some students often go to. So these are social vices, and the local authorities, local government bodies have a role to play in this.
Exactly.
Yeah,
What are you going to do about these issues?
those are actually economic problems really, right?
Yes.
Due to poor economy, the people are resorted to these sort of things. The
How are we to
prostitution,
resolve these?
Yeah.
What are the actionable points that the JVP proposes if you are elected as mayor of Colombo? What are you going to do to arrest this situation?
Yeah, actually provide good education to these people, right?
Are you
when they
saying that
go
the
get-
existing education
Yeah.
system is
Yeah. The existing education system is not good. There are a lot of problems there, right? The people going to tuition classes and all that, and they waste lot of time, right? Going to tuition classes
Right.
and their health.
Shavin, now we are aware that much of the government sector, in terms of government servants, require an attitudinal shift. I'll give you an example, and Mr. Sali, you also. I once walked into a government office, and one lady there said, "Akke mang ada dawalta genawa sudu bat, battakka, maalu, parippu." That was her conversation in front of a group of lawyers there.
Exactly.
Right? So these are the kinds of issues that need to be really arrested. Shavin, your thoughts?
Yeah, so that's quite right, because the moment you actually step into the municipal council, sometimes you have to spend the entire day and you might have to come back as well. They shift you from place to place, they might ask you to go somewhere else as well. So part of this problem actually stems from the fact that there is a lot of redundancies that take place, and on top of that, it's ingrained in people's minds that this is how it happens. It's a long fought battle, but where we actually start is again the aspect that I was championing earlier. One aspect that we want to bring in is this quarterly, as in every 3 months, a town hall meeting that is chaired by the mayor, the councillors, as well as the staff. And in these town hall meetings, we actually want to get the citizens, the residents in, and to make sure that they are able to directly address their representative, from the mayor to the councillors to even the staff members, and to directly say these are the problems that we are facing. And when I mentioned earlier about the proactive aspect of government, this has to work both ways as well, and that's what I meant by creating a dialogue. Not just the complaints coming in and feedback being provided, but also whenever we are trying to have policy shifts or certain matters that we are trying to bring out into the public's forum, rather than just simply putting it out there to get feedback from the public beforehand.
This is
Yes.
where the problem is.
What's the
having
problem?
meetings. See, the government sector has declared Wednesday as a public day. You go to any government department to get something done on a public day, they are not there. You ask them, secretary has gone for a meeting. Everybody, head of department has gone for a meeting. So the whole country is having meetings, but not working. This is the problem. So these
yes.
meetings have to stop and people must start working.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. But I want to pose a question to all three gentlemen who are here today. What is your take about these high-rise buildings that are coming up in Colombo? Is it required? I'll start off with Shavin first and then move to Dr. Jayasena and then Azad. So let's start off with Shavin. I just want to get your thought on this. Do you think it's required? Must there be a streamlined system for this? If that's the case, where is the energy requirement going to come through? What about the land? Are these all legal constructions or illegal constructions? What is your take on this?
Okay, so in terms of the high-rise buildings that are coming up, I think there needs to be a streamlined process. It's very difficult to consider it as a black or white issue. There's many shades of grey. There are instances when it's absolutely necessary. There are some instances where it is lackluster in terms of how it has been manifested. So one particular problem that is sort of incumbent at the moment is this streamlining aspect. There is not much in terms of how they are manifested, plus on top of that, as you might have noticed even quite recently in Vallavatta, there was a massive construction that was not permitted to be at that level, which collapsed, and that itself shows you that there has been issues that stem from the very foundation or the
Shavin, after that
level.
building collapsed, the CMC said that there are 10,000 illegal constructions
Exactly.
in the city, and
Yes.
that they're going to get court orders to demolish these buildings, these illegal
And nothing
buildings.
has been done.
And nothing has been
Judge
done.
has not signed.
And then from that,
Judge has not signed it.
and I
The
think
judge has not signed it.
at that point itself, from that moment till this point, I believe it was the commissioner who is actually handling the CMC.
No,
And
no,
at
no,
this
no, no,
point,
no, no. So I'm sorry. The council is run by the Prime Minister's office. Let me be very frank. Every Monday the commissioner is sitting in the Prime Minister's office and Rosie Senanaga is chairing the meeting, right? These are all illegal things that they are doing. That is what I didn't say. This is the report of the cafe.
But
cafe is very clearly saying that the Prime Minister's office is abusing its place, especially after nomination. They can't be doing this, they can't be having Dansal. Now, like Mahinda Rajapaksa did, Prime
we
Minister's
give
office...
Shavin,
again,
I
I'm not
think you
privy to
respond
this
to that.
information. From my perspective, it's speculation alone, so I cannot really
Shavin,
comment
so
on
are
that.
you trying to say that we are waiting for 10 years because your plan is for 10 years? So are we waiting for 10 years until everything is hunky-dory
So
for Sri Lanka?
you are assuming that when I specify it's a
I'm not
10-year
assuming, I'm just
plan
basing
that
on- I'm
today
basing
we
on what you're
start
saying.
and on the 10th year, the end of the 10th year, everything gets completed.
Shavin,
That's
you
not
said
how
it's
it
hold
works.
on. You said it's speculation, but Mr. Sali mentioned he quoted
Cafe.
an election monitoring organization,
And it's in the newspaper.
campaign for free and fair elections. Are you saying that
I cannot
Cafe is
comment
lying?
on it because I do not know. He just mentioned
You
it
can
right
call the
now.
commission and ask what is he doing on Mondays.
So as far as
I
you
wouldn't
know,
know.
this is not happening.
I wouldn't know.
So Shavin, very simple.
they
You
are
say that
actually
you all
doing
have a
lot of
10-year
illegal
program.
Lot of illegal things are being done by the government.
I'll come back to you, Dr. Jayasena and Azad. Now, you say that you have a 10-year program. Am I right?
Yes.
Exactly your words. So you're trying to say from this day onwards, in 10 years, if I ask you whether this has been done or not, you're going to tell me, I don't know because this was 10 years ago. Is that your answer?
No, definitely
just mentioned,
not,
you
and
just
that's
said-
not the
yeah.
premise either. I
Yeah.
think
What
the
is the premise then?
10-year program
Yeah.
is a long-term process of fulfilling
But
these 5
you
aspects
will
that
be
I
held
explained.
accountable for it.
That's the whole idea, and that's what I
Yeah.
said earlier when we spoke about the
Yeah.
manifesto.
Yeah.
This is not necessarily promises. I hate to call these promises. They are obligations. That's the whole concept of the social contract. And I think you refer to me as a politician, but then I would...
No, I did not refer to you as a
You
politician.
did.
I did not.
I prefer
Where did
it
I-
to be
where-
public servant because public
Yeah, I did
servant
not
is
mention
someone
to
who
you.
is
No, I did
obligated
not.
to the people.
But I did not mention to you as a politician. I said if you are contesting a local government body, you would automatically transform into a politician. If you are representing the council, you will automatically transform into a politician because you are contesting from a well-recognized political party. Dr. Jayasena, your thoughts on putting up high-rise buildings?
Yeah, actually I think that is mainly due to the conflict between the central government and sometimes the local government, right? Sometimes the central government is outpowering the local government's decisions and all that. And that has been the problem, real problem. And we actually saw this during the recent past. And when now you said the Gota was, to giving directions, and they are not following the guide, running the council, and the local government authorities not following the guidelines. Right? They couldn't do it because of this involvement. And high-rise buildings actually is a real problem. Actually, we have seen, that is one of the causes for these floods and all that. Right?
Thank you very much.
And blockage of the drains and not properly done.
Dr. Jasin, just very quickly, you said that this is because of a problem between the central government and the local government, but there are allegations, well-founded allegations that, and I'm sure Mrs. Ali will also concur on this, that a lot of these illegal constructions exist because members of local councils take bribes to pass building plans that are not in line with Urban Development Authority regulations. And this has been going on for a very long time. They have approval for 4 stories, bribe the council, get approval for 10 stories, and put up a 10-story building where there should not be a 10-story building. And then you see instances like what you saw in Valuatra, and it was after this. So how will you address this? How will you resolve this problem?
I want to give an opportunity to Dr. Jayasen. I'll give you 1 minute, Dr. Jayasen, to respond, and then I'm going to switch to Mrs. Ali. Yes, Dr. Jayasen.
There should be a mutual understanding actually, right? The local government should follow the guidelines, to have these constructions according to the plans. And also sometimes you may need help from the central government, and you have to have some mutual understanding. Without that you can't run a local government. That you have to understand.
I think all of us are talking without knowing what actually is the power of the CMC with regard to planning. Planning is a delegated power by the UDA, which has been pulled out soon after this government was formed. The minister was minister who took over. He took over the powers of the planning branch of the Colombo Municipal Council, and now it is with the UDA. After that, only this collapse of that Valuatra building and all that happened. See, to make things easy, Colombo has to go in for a master plan. You can't allow anybody to come and do haphazard building. You have a 68-story building coming up, then you have a 15-story building up. It doesn't match. So that beautification is also lost. So Colombo Municipal Council will have to come with a master plan and say these are the lands that are for development, and these are the, if it is 50 perches, let all these blocks become 50 perches to have it nice. If you go into London,
you have a master plan?
Yeah, of course. If you just go into London, you will see the street. Both sides you see similar buildings, similar height, all that. You go into Saudi Arabia also, you can see that. But in Sri Lanka,
he never had a proper city plan.
No city plan. We remember Indigo Gunawardena spent millions of rupees and trying to make 3 or 4 books were made and sent to all the local authorities, but it was just thrown out when Dinesh became the minister. So every minister comes, he just wastes money, come with some planning, and those are not. That is why Sri Lanka has to go in for a national policy. We don't have a national policy in anything. So if this national policy can come in, governments may come and go, but the policy will not change, and we can have a beautiful Sri Lanka.
Thank you very much, gentlemen, for your thoughts in the first, second, third and fourth rounds. We're now going for a short commercial break. When we come back, it's a final round. We're talking about an emphasis on the Colombo Municipal Council election and what sort of transformation is needed for us to move forward. Stay connected, stay with Face the Nation.